Hey there, boys and girls, viewers and listeners of all ages. This is But Before We Go, with presenting part two of Lies Our Ancestors Told Us, or as Steve Hunt says, lies, lies, and damn it, more lies. Anyway, I'm Bill Woodcock.
And I'm still Steve Hunt.
And I've taken a little bit of a depressant since the last episode because I was left in apoplexy on the pure evil that was perpetrated to me. But yet, Steve, I have more evil to share. Um, Steve, a thing that happened to me when I was a kid was that probably within the first 9 years of my life, I had about 14 birthday cakes. So my father worked at Social Security Administration, and on the way home, although kind of not really, was a bakery. And he would stop in and get birthday cakes because he liked birthday cakes. And so I got a birthday cake, even if it wasn't my birthday. And ultimately, around the age of 8, I became a little bit wise to why are birthday cakes coming in, you know, November? I know November's not my birthday. My birthday's in July, but I was never that sure of what my birth date in July was. Steve, I was told for about 6 years that my birthday, first I was told it was July 7th, then I was told it was July 1st, then I was told it was July 4th, and then finally, when I was about 11 or 12 years old, I was told that it was July 17th, which is when it is. I didn't believe it until the first time I saw my actual birth certificate, which was when I was in high school. And I believe that this was always a ruse to bring in extra birthday cakes. I still don't understand why I would get birthday cakes in December, but I did. And I was just kept in the dark as to when my actual birthday was.
Now, did
Speechless
you ever
again.
ask the
I've done
question
this
why?
again. How have I stopped you from speaking? And I
I
ever
don't know. I'm trying to think through this. I'm like, did at any point, like as an older child or as an adult, you say, "Hey, what was up with that?"
Oh, of course I did. Of course I did. Steve, I've done that with several of these things on this list, and some of these things that I haven't yet talked about, which are just blood curdling. And you know what answer I got back?
Hmm.
What answer would you think I would have gotten back? We never did that to you. That never happened to you. What? In God's name, it certainly did happen to me.
And see, this is the thing I loved about our elders, I will call them, and I'll be very kind, is not only did they think we were dumb enough to believe it at the time, we're also going to be dumb enough to not remember that shit.
Right. Right.
So
Like,
they,
yeah.
they
I
just thought
mean,
we were idiots.
well, this is the whole premise behind this whole episode, right? It's like it's this stuff we remembered, and it's like, why did that happen? It never needed to happen. Were there any things necessary?
Right.
Anything just didn't need to happen. None of this needed to happen. Didn't need to be threatened with a snallygaster. Didn't need to be threatened with prison. Didn't need to have people threaten to abandon me. Can't you tell somebody when the birth date is?
Right. But it just, I guess you're absolutely right, but it just sunk in that second part. I mean, the first part, obviously, we're talking about things that they thought we were dumb enough to believe. But the second part, things they thought we were dumb enough to believe at the time and not remember later, it just sunk in when you tried to go to your elders and say, why did I have 58 birthdays? They're like, what are you talking about? You only have one. Like, like at age something, you get they like do the Men in Black on you, flash you, and it just wipes out all this shit. That does not happen.
Man, I mean, you've never had your parents have never said to you, "Oh no, we didn't do that. You misunderstood. You misperceived something." Please tell me that that was a normal thing that goes on with people, because I would really hate to think that once again that was another thing that was not true in itself. Because I just kind of figured that everybody's family had that nonsense going on in it. Oh, that never happened to you. Well, yes, it did. No, it didn't. It kind of did, though. You mean no other families do that?
Oh boy. Not
Seriously asking.
I
I need some
yeah,
iced coffee. Dunkin' Donuts, official non-sponsor of but before we go.
there you go. There is just I mean, Bill, we set up this
So you're telling
episode.
me other families don't do that by your failure to answer my question.
I you know,
Damn it.
I am
Damn it.
floored. Bill, you have brought it on a whole nother level between mind erasures and that monster thingy we talked about in part one.
I
I
sent you
mean,
a
I'm
link to
gonna
that, by the way. There's a Snallygaster Museum, apparently.
what?
Yes, there is. It's in beautiful Frederick, Maryland. Now I'm going.
Oh, and now that just means that some minor league team needs to hook this up because if the museum's in Frederick, that now you just have cross promotion. I mean, it's tailor made, baby. Let's
Yeah,
do this.
yeah, but this is so you're amazed I'm standing up straight, is what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah, yeah. I just man, talk about trauma. I mean, wow. Okay.
Well, I've got about 20 minutes more.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna throw one
Actually,
out real.
we've got plenty. Wait, don't you have anything else? Or is this just
Yeah,
gonna turn into
I'm
psychoanalyzing
just
my fucked up childhood?
I'm trying to get my composure so I can bring my next one through.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe
Oh
I will
gosh.
bring this one off the list, because the last one I have I'm saving for last because it's a doozy. It outdoes everything I've said. But this one I think is a little bit more understandable. So,
Okay.
so as I have said, lived in a little town about 6 miles from the Baltimore city limit called Elkridge, Maryland. When we would address our letters, our zip code was 21227. Now Elkridge is 21075, but then it was 21227, which was a zip code that was at the time shared with Halethorpe, Arbutus, communities in southwestern Baltimore County,
Mhm.
and a bit of southwest Baltimore, which I think 21227 still is. So we would put on our letters and we would put on our address and those, remember the little return address labels? I mean, oh, maybe you still have them.
Mhm.
I mean, we used to have the rolls of them.
Mhm.
We used to put our address, our name, our address, Baltimore, Maryland 21227. So in itself, I don't think that's much of an omission. But then when I would ask, where do we live? I was never told Elkridge, Maryland. I was told Baltimore.
Hmm.
Now, I was born in Baltimore. I love Baltimore, spent a lot of my time in Baltimore, still spend a lot of my time in Baltimore. But I didn't live in Baltimore until I was 18 years old and I was in college. But is that so bad?
Now, Bill, was this what was told to people from out of town, like relatives from another state, and it was just like easy to say Baltimore, or were these things you told to people in the area who should know all of these cities that are outside of Baltimore proper?
Oh well, people in the area, we would say we live in Baltimore.
Huh.
Then we would say we live in a town called Elk Ridge. And then they would get confused. They would think it was a neighborhood in Baltimore called Elk Ridge. And then we would go, no, it's a town in Howard County,
Hmm.
which, mind you, I mean, between in that little 8 miles between Elk Ridge and Baltimore City is Baltimore County.
Yes.
And Baltimore City and Baltimore County, I believe, only within like, I think it's only been for about 70 years that Baltimore City has been an independent city, not contained within Baltimore County.
Right. Yeah, and I asked this, Bill, because when I was a kid, we lived right outside of DC. So to our out of towners, relatives like my dad's family in Tennessee, we were just from DC. You know, we didn't bother saying that we were. Well, our town had several names growing up because we got reshuffled around for post office purposes. So I actually grew up in three different towns technically, but for our family out of town, it was just they're from DC. Now, for our family who was in the area, then we would talk about our town. So that's why I asked the question. So, because obviously our relatives who lived in DC, if we said DC, they would be like, no, y'all live out in the boondocks, which at the time, living right outside of town, you may as well have been on another planet. But the out of towners, you
Yeah,
said, oh, yeah, they're from.
honestly, we didn't have any family from out of town. All of my father's and my grandmother's family were in the Baltimore area.
Ah,
And in fact, they all lived within, well, no, actually, that's not true. I had one great aunt who lived also in Elk Ridge. But the others and my great uncle all lived in Baltimore, all lived in the city. My father was an only child, so that we're not there. But yeah, now, like to people who lived in the county, like we didn't say we lived in Baltimore, we said where we lived. And yes, to other people we would know who lived outside the area, not family, but friends,
mhm.
we lived in Baltimore. And the people who are in the county, we lived in the county. But then the people who lived in Baltimore, we lived in Baltimore, but not Baltimore. Some sort of strange netherworld. Was 21227. Because also remember, zip codes were like fairly, we've only had zip codes for like 60 or 70 years, maybe.
Yep.
And remember it was zone 27. I remember them telling me where they lived. It was zone 27. And so
Yeah.
27 was Southwest Baltimore. So I always got the impression that they were trying to fake themselves as living in the city when they really lived in the country. Because the concept of suburbs was only really starting to be a thing in the 70s.
Yes. Yeah. I just remember when we moved, and literally we are right on top of DC where my parents' old house is. But I just remember my dad found the house, and my mom, who grew up in DC, um, the first thing she said was, "You have me moving out here to the country." Because you're absolutely right. Early 70s, suburbs were still relatively new, and you really did feel like you were like, you know, 100 miles away from the big city. And of course, now, Elk Ridge is, you can sneeze and find your way into Baltimore. And same thing with the town where I grew up. I mean, it's you know it's pretty much considered part of the DC metro area now. So you're right. Maybe that's what our folks were trying to do, was make themselves easily identifiable by just calling out the nearest big city and calling it a day, instead of trying to explain what a Elkridge was, or in my case, an Oxon Hill.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I figured. So, I mean, that one's kind of not that malicious, right? It's a little bent, but it doesn't, I mean, does it come across as evil?
It does not come across as evil. It comes across more as convenient.
Yes, that's the word. That's the word. Also, remember in like 1970, Again, Baltimore, and maybe, I mean, I hear myself justifying it. Because in 1970, Baltimore was like the sixth largest city in America.
Yeah,
Now it's far from that. But, if you were from Baltimore, you were a little bit of a thing because there
yeah,
was New York, LA, Chicago, Philly. Um, what was big? I think San Francisco and then Baltimore.
yeah,
And then it
yeah.
wasn't
Because I mean,
until
Atlanta
later
had
that
not become
Houston and Atlanta and all these other cities in the Southeast came up.
right, but they had not come up yet. So like Atlanta, even like a Miami, certainly nothing between Atlanta and DC. Richmond, not so much. I would say even in the early '70s, it was kind of, what's a bigger deal, DC or Baltimore? But you're right, south of DC, eh,
Oh, it was boonies and
yeah.
pure boonies. Still kind of is.
Well, yeah, there are big chunks of it, that's for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, there are bits carved out. No, anyway, that's another thing. Steve, all right. You still don't have anything else? I really
I
feel
do.
like I'm on the spot here.
No, no, no. I do. I'm like I said, I had to recover from not the
All
Elkins
right,
one.
well, let's hear what you got, because I swear to God, I'm gonna kill people with this last one.
All right,
People are
so I'm
just
gonna.
gonna go, this is a sick man, and probably never listen to this again.
Okay,
Go
so I'm
ahead.
gonna drop this one in very quickly. And then because I joined the audience and being eager to want to hear this closer that you have lined up here, Mr. Woodcock. So,
Oh, it
um,
is it is Goose Gossage in his heyday of a closer.
Enter Sandman. Okay, here we go. I'm thinking Rivera, but okay. Hey,
Okay.
let's look at us Baltimore guys making Yankees references. What's up with that? Um, So, how many kids discovered the wondrous, wonderful, almost mystical thing of crossing your eyes and seeing what the world looks like? Every kid probably remembers the first time you did it, you were like, oh, that looks wild because you're seeing double. And how many parents and elders looked at you and said, if you keep doing that, you know it's going to stay that way.
Yes.
So, um, and then of course, for me, I also got you're it's gonna mess with your eyesight. You got to end up wearing glasses, and of course, by high school, I'm wearing glasses. But no, it was not because I crossed my eyes as a kid because I thought it was cool. It's because I've got parents who are also blind as a bat, and it's heredity. It's genetics. It ain't stupid things you did as a kid. So that's the one that I came across as I was doing some, very detailed research for this program. Um, and when I saw that one, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that one because every kid was told, yeah, if you do that, your eyes are going to get stuck that way. That's not how your eyes work, people. So we bought it though, because if a parent said it, you stopped doing it, and then of course you did it later anyway. But that's mine.
That is a mess, and there are a number of those things. Yeah, if you keep crossing your eyes, you're going to stay that way. If you keep making faces, like
Yeah,
or your face is going to stay that way. It's going to freeze. And where were all these frozen face
yeah.
people? I mean, if that was the thing that was going to happen, where were they? Show me the frozen faced people. But do they live in an enclave somewhere, all walking around going, "Arr."
Yeah,
No.
like your skull has some sort of locking mechanism that's gonna like say, okay, enough of this. We're just gonna shut it down right here.
That's right. You got enough tomfoolery for one lifetime, young man or young lady. Now your face shall freeze. It doesn't work that way. I don't know. Yeah, and the inanity of that threat.
Yeah,
Your face will freeze that way. Like whatever freezes on a kid,
yeah,
nothing. Children are perpetual motion machines. They
absolutely.
just go bounce about with reckless abandon. with no regard for their life and sometimes the lives of others. So nothing will freeze. There's no use case, Steve, to justify where that threat would be effective, but yet it was
Yeah.
effective.
When we were kids, it was. But again, we were low information kids when it came to that sort of thing. We could not like do a couple of clicks and realize, okay, this is bullshit. We had to get older and realize, yeah, it really is.
Did you ever tell your kids that their faces would freeze? I never did
No,
because it
no,
was nonsense.
no. Besides the whole catch cold nonsense that we talked about in episode 1, I cannot think of a single one of these that I have ever uttered, or any of the other ones that we could probably go on about and do like a part 3. None of them have I passed on to my children. Not one.
Well, likewise, and if I pass this last one on, I would probably have needed to, as was said in part one, have Child Protective Services referred to me. Steve, I have a visual aid for this last one.
Oh, not
1 second,
CPS.
please. All right. Thank you to my friend Rebecca for reminding me to de-blur the screen. I'm doing that. Steve, you see on this notebook a number of X's. How
I
many
do.
X's are there, Steve?
There are 4, Bill.
There are 4 X's. That is correct. For those out there listening, there were 4 X's. Now look with the marker of destiny. I have amended this. Now, Steve, how many X's are there?
I am looking at your paper, Bill, and I see 5 X's.
There are indeed 5 X's on there, Steve.
I feel like the count on
So,
Sesame Street.
blah, blah, I see
5.
4 X's. Now there are 5 X's. Or Captain Picard. 5 X's. From an episode of Star Trek where he was captured and held captive by a Cardassian torturer. Anyway, this did not happen when I was a young child. This happened when I was in middle school. And
Oh,
this shit was perpetrated on me until I was in high school. I was a straight A student in high school, Steve.
okay.
I was a really smart kid. Yet I was bamboozled by my father's claim that there was, and that mathematicians, where these mathematicians were, I don't know. No
Okay.
names were ever given. No country of origin was ever disclosed. I was told that there was a whole number between 4 and 5.
What?
A whole integer number between 4 and 5.
So
And that I
hold on. So no fraction, no stuff after a decimal point, literally like a its own number sitting between 4 and 5.
sitting between 4
Yeah.
and 5. 4 and 5. Now, what makes a whole number is the addition of an integer of 1. So the
Yes.
subsequent number to 4, oh, and Cat of the podcast, Bubba, has joined me again and is being friendly to me by waving his damn tail in my face. But anyway, an integer adds by 1.
Yes.
So, Steve, again, using the visual aid and the cat's tail, 4 and 5. And I would use this logic and I would say, wait a minute. No, you mean a fraction. No, no fraction, Bill. You mean a decimal. No, no decimal. You mean a compound fraction. You mean like, 22 fifths or something. No, you're telling me there's a whole number between 4 and 5. Yes. Well, what's it called? You need to figure out what it's called.
Oh dear God, not one of those.
I needed to figure out what it was called. I don't know why I needed to figure out what it was called. I don't know what would happen if I didn't figure it out. Apparently nothing, because I never figured it out. Because it doesn't happen. It's not real. It doesn't exist.
No.
It's no whole number between 4 and 5. What number is you add by 1? Goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on. There is no damn number between 4 and 5.
Bill, we've referred, well, we talked about in episode 1, and we referred to it in this episode about child protective services. You may have just made a case for parent protective services, because anybody that's going to give you that, and I love the part about, okay, there's a number between 4 and 5. What is it? Well, you figure it out. So they can't even tell you. They're going to send you off into the world on this quest, this mission, this search to end all searches to find this mythical number that exists between 4 and 5.
And
And hope
don't
the
think I
monster
haven't
doesn't get you while you're looking.
don't think I haven't Googled it, because I have. As an adult in my 50s, I actually wanted to see if this was like a thing that some people were saying just to friggin' torture their kids. Number between 4 and 5. Nothing came up. Like nobody ever did that to their kids, except in my household they did that. Why do you do? I don't understand. Right, but yeah, to your point, you figure it out. Well, what's it used for? It's used to solve certain problems.
Yeah.
Certain problems. But it created other problems. I mean, what certain problems? Well, I know I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That is that's cold. And you figure, okay, obviously our parents would tell us silly stuff, and after a few minutes of watching us, go through the mental gymnastics, it's very clear that our brains are starting to fry and possibly explode. They say, I'm just kidding. But it doesn't sound like you were let off the hook. Like there wasn't a point where it's like, yeah, we're just messing with you, bro. They left that hanging for you to deal with.
Well, no, I definitely was not let off the hook. No, there
That's
was no leaving off the hook. And no, I twisted in the wind on that big time. In fact, it would come up in arguments. That's how it lasted for 3 years. Oh yeah, because at this point, I'm back talking my dad, because I'm getting
damn.
tired of his shit. God rest his soul, been dead 20, 18
Oh,
years come June 9th. But yeah, yeah, I'm starting to just be like, yeah, like you told me there was a number between 4 and 5, huh? Oh, you
yeah.
just haven't found it yet. What?
You haven't found it yet.
No, I haven't found it yet, because it's bullshit.
Keep
That's
looking.
why I haven't found it yet.
Keep looking. It's out there somewhere.
And the truth is out there. I'm gonna get Kolchak the Night Stalker, Files, Rod Serling, Captain Kirk, Leonard Nimoy going in search of.
In
I got
search of, oh
all
yeah,
those
my man.
characters on the case. Leonard Nimoy going in search of. That show is tight, by the way.
Oh,
I like that.
In Search of
Unexplained
does not
phenomena.
nearly get as much love as it should.
Who's that?
In Search of does not nearly get as much love as it should.
No, it does not. No, it does not. But wouldn't it be great? We should come up with a new show, and new In Search of. In Search of the number between 4 and 5.
Yeah. Oh, see, now I'm getting images of, the number shows up on the back of a milk carton is missing. I know I shouldn't joke about that, but it just gives you that image.
But Steve, here's the problem. Can't show up as missing because it doesn't have a symbol. I mean, 3 is 3, 4 is 4, 5 is 5, 6 is 6. What about this number between 4 and 5? It doesn't have a depiction.
See, now we've got Surly, we've got Nimoy. I wait for Robert Stack to show up in his trench coat. I mean, come on.
Oh yes, Unsolved Mysteries. Yes, I'll get the whole bunch of them on it.
Oh, Bill, you're right. That wow. I mean, obviously, as kids, we were all fed some absolute, complete, you know, unfiltered BS, but that is the next level of next levels.
That was some shit that beat the band. Yeah, that beat the band.
Yeah, that is. I don't even know how what to call that. I mean, yeah, Jesus. I
Well,
just
on
love the
that,
part. I just love the part about. Well, you got to go figure it out.
go figure it out.
Not even give you a
How do I
hint.
do that exactly? Do
You're
I get
on your
any
own.
resources? Are you giving me a grant?
It's
Like,
like
when
nope.
do I do that in between my homework? You
Like
know, now that I'm thinking about it, I think there was a time where I actually asked one of my teachers if there was a number between 4 and 5. I think I honestly asked one of my math teachers that. Could
now,
you imagine? Now that I'm thinking about it, and I do believe that happened, could you imagine my math teacher coming up? I mean, me, and I can't remember which one it was, but I'm thinking of any of my middle school math teachers. Could you? Oh my God, that poor person. They probably were like, Why did he ask me that? He's asking me that just to mess with me. That little asshole."
well, you know what would have been even better than that is if they ask you why you're talking about this mystery non-existent number, you say that it came from your dad and talk about the mother of all parent teacher conferences. Mr. Woodcock, we would like to come have you come in and talk about your child's education. And you
Oh,
have a
my
whole
dad would have been
conference
happy
about
to have
this
come
number.
in. My dad would have loved coming in because he loved telling everybody what to do. And he also was quite enamored with my music teacher. So yes, he would have absolutely loved to have come into school, especially if it was the day that Mrs. Higdon was supposed to be in class. And you'll note I did say Mrs. Higdon. Oh yeah, he liked her. He asked her out.
So, and
He
so
asked my
we talked
married
about
music
extra
teacher out.
numbers. I guess the extra letter in her title, the R, did not matter to him either.
My it really is pathetic. It's just like why? Why did I even bother? Anyway, we have reached the end of this episode. I hope you have enjoyed and stayed through the end of this two-part production of But Before We Go and the shit that we got lied about. I got nothing left because it's just a lot. But we will be back at you next week as Steve and I talk about some things, but definitely not all things, Star Wars. Until then, for Steve, I'm Bill. This is But Before We Go. Bye now.